Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. In this session, we're covering pages 522 to 555, and we're really tackling one of the biggest challenges out there. How do we create genuine, lasting change in our organizations? We're going to look at why those easy, quick fixes almost always backfire, and what it really takes to build a culture of deep, sustainable learning, from the corporate world right down to our kids' classrooms. Okay, let's dive in.
You know, it's a question that keeps leaders up at night. You spot a problem, you roll out a solution, but before you know it, the problem is back, and sometimes it's even worse. The reason for this often comes down to a really powerful pattern called shifting the burden. It perfectly captures our human tendency to go for the easy, surface-level fix instead of digging in and addressing the real, fundamental cause of the problem. And this dilemma, it's everywhere. It taps right into our desire for instant results. Every single day we face this choice. Do we put a bandage on the symptom and get that quick win? Or do we commit to the much harder work of actually healing the underlying issue? The path we take, well, it has huge consequences.
Let's take corporate environmentalism as an example. Say a company faces a potential environmental risk. They've got two roads they can go down. The symptomatic solution is containment. Deny the problem, manage the PR, and just hope it all blows over. That's the quick fix. The other road, the fundamental solution, is inquiry. This means you openly investigate what's going on, you learn from it, and you actually change the way you do things. It's way harder, for sure, but it's the only way to really solve the problem for good.
And this quote right here is a critical warning. Choosing that easy path of containment, it's like an addiction. Every time a company does it, they miss the chance to build the skills and the culture of inquiry they actually need. Over time, the organization gets worse and worse at facing the truth, which makes it almost impossible to ever get on that fundamental path.
So how in the world do you break this addiction to the quick fix? Well, let's look at a fantastic case study, American Woodmark. Now, this was a company that was, by every measure, a huge success. But its leaders had this incredible foresight. They realized that the very culture that made them successful in the past wasn't going to cut it for the future. They knew they needed a deep, fundamental shift towards becoming a true learning organization.
But their journey was anything but a straight line. Their first attempt, training a few pilot teams, didn't work because the teams were just too isolated. Their second attempt, this big, broad-based training, got people excited, but it ended up alienating all the middle managers. It wasn't until phase 3, level-to-level training, that they finally cracked it. The breakthrough, the big idea, was getting managers to teach their own teams directly. This one simple change created a sense of ownership, and it embedded the new skills into the real day-to-day work.
And this really captures the key lesson from their CEO, Bill Brandt. He's saying that changing a culture isn't some neat, predictable project you can map out. You have to be willing to try things, to see them fail, and to view those failures not as an ending, but as crucial feedback that helps you get back on course. It takes an incredible amount of patience.
So, the American Woodmark story shows us how important it is to change our processes and skills. But what if the problem runs even deeper? What if the biggest things holding us back from learning are hidden right there in plain sight? Often, the most powerful forces are actually baked into the physical spaces we use and the quality of our relationships with each other.
I mean, just picture a classroom, a room with desks bolted to the floor in rows, all facing forward. That sends a very clear message about power and how learning is supposed to work, right? Now compare that to a room with round tables, comfy chairs, and lots of light. It just invites people to talk, to collaborate. The architecture itself teaches you something. It's like what the Calgary Herald did when they put a glass-wall daycare right in the middle of their office. That makes a powerful statement about what they value.
This is so true in family businesses. The health of the company is directly linked to the health of the family's relationships. The quick fix for a conflict is to call in the lawyers. That's just shifting the burden. The real, fundamental work is improving the trust and communication within the family itself. Those relationships are the hidden structure. And these ideas aren't just for businesses. They are absolutely critical for the institutions that shape our whole society. Think about healthcare, the media, and our schools, places where the stakes for genuine learning couldn't be higher.
For a hospital to truly become a learning organization, you need 4 things. First, it has to start at the very top. You can't just delegate this to a program manager. Second, everyone, from the top surgeons to the janitorial staff, has to feel empowered to improve the whole system. You have to break down those silos. Third, leaders have to be genuinely curious. And finally, the hospital has to see itself as part of the community's broader system of health.
The Calgary Herald newspaper is another great example. They had these huge internal conflicts between the newsroom and the advertising department, but by applying these learning disciplines, they didn't just break down those walls, they got real business results, growing ad revenue in one category by over 20%.
And this quote from a teacher, Frank Draper, is just so powerful. For months, his students were active, engaged, managing these complex simulated ecosystems. They were absolutely thriving. Then, one day, he switched back to a standard lecture, and boom, all the old discipline problems came rushing back. And he had this incredible realization. It wasn't that he had a bad batch of kids. He had created their behavior by turning them from active learners back into passive listeners.
Okay, so this is all really fascinating stuff, but how do we take these lessons and actually apply them in our own lives, in our own workplaces? Let's break it down into a few practical steps and some common mistakes to watch out for.
First, just get in the habit of constantly asking yourself, am I solving a symptom here or am I tackling the root cause? Am I just reaching for the quick fix? Second, start paying attention to those hidden structures. How does your office layout or your meeting schedule encourage or discourage real learning? And third, you have to be persistent. Like we saw with American Woodmark, real change is a messy journey of trial and error.
And please, watch out for these common traps. Don't delegate change. If you're a leader, you have to be the lead learner, period. Don't expect a quick fix. That addiction to easy answers is tough to break. And finally, don't treat this like some temporary program or the flavor of the month. Learning has to become the way you do everything.
When you boil it all down, the journey we're talking about is a massive shift in perspective. It's about moving away from a world built on control and top-down answers. It's about moving toward creating environments, habitats as the source puts it, where curiosity, collaboration, and continuous learning can really flourish for everyone.
Maybe the biggest barrier to learning isn't a lack of answers. Maybe it's a lack of courage. The courage to admit, I don't know. The courage to look at uncomfortable truths. And the courage to ask those deep, fundamental questions. So the question I'll leave you with is this: are you asking them?